Happy Friday, everybody. Good afternoon. This is David Tashrudian from ADU1. And today I'm here to talk to you about something other than ADUs. We'll be discussing Senate Bill 721 as it was incorporated into the California Government Code at Section 17973. So just a brief background, in case you were not aware, if you own an apartment building with 3 or more units, starting January 2025, so January 1, 2025, you'll have to have all of your exterior elevated elements of your apartment buildings inspected. And we'll get into a little bit more detail about what an exterior elevated element is. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here and we can proceed into our presentation. Okay. How do I share the screen here? Here we are, the entire screen. Let's share it. Okay, here we are. PowerPoint. Slideshow going. Oops. Okay, there we are. So again, my name is David Tashrudian. I am with ADU1 and Retrofit1, and we'll be talking about the SB721 triple E inspection for exterior elevated elements. So SB721 is colloquially known as the balcony bill. Essentially, after the terrible collapse in Berkeley a couple of years ago, I think it was 5 years ago or so, the state Senate and the state legislature, rather, took a close look at construction defect and things that were going to pose a risk to health and safety. And they decided to ensure that all balconies and other exterior elevated elements would be inspected to ensure that they don't fail like they did in Berkeley. So the law requires that balconies and decks and porches, stairways, walkways, and other entrances into buildings that are over 6 feet tall, 6 feet high off of the ground, must have an inspection. Must be inspected rather every 6 years, starting in January of 2025. So what we're looking at here is a picture of the failed balcony in Berkeley. As you can see, the joists that are extending from the building line that were holding the balcony up are completely rotted. This is likely because of a failure of the associated waterproofing elements. So the gist of the bill is that if you've got these exterior elevated elements, you've got to have the associated waterproofing elements of those balconies and walkways inspected, and you also have to have the load-bearing components inspected, and associated waterproofing elements and load-bearing components are also defined in the statute, and they're somewhere here. Okay, so we've already talked about what an exterior elevated element is, and this is straight from the statute. It's going to be balconies, decks, porches, stairways, walkways, and entry structures that extend beyond exterior walls of the building and which have a walking surface that is elevated more than 6 feet above the ground level. So not only do you have to have the balconies and the decks and the porches and the like inspected, but you also have to have supports and their railings inspected. So another definition in the statute is for associated waterproofing elements. So the associated waterproofing elements are flashing, membranes, coatings, and sealants that protect the load-bearing components of exterior elevated elements. And the load-bearing components are those components that extend beyond the exterior walls of the building to deliver structural loads from the exterior elevated element to the building. So you can expect this to be the joists that cantilever out from the building line to support a deck. It can also be the beams and the posts that support a deck and a walkway and a stairway. So you're going to have the load-bearing components inspected and the waterproofing elements inspected, as well as the railings there. So what we see on the right here is a deck that collapsed in Malibu. And what the state really wants to do is ensure that this doesn't happen again. So if an inspection reveals that there's an immediate threat to safety. The repairs that were identified, the repairs to the elements that were failing, that were identified in the report, must be made immediately. And if they're not made immediately, there's a mechanism in the statute where the city can fine the building owner anywhere between $100 and $500 a day per day of noncompliance. So it's very important that once an exterior elevated element has been identified as posing a threat to safety, that it be immediately remedied. Otherwise, there's a real possibility that the owner can face some steep fines. And there's also another mechanism built into the statute to allow the state to foreclose against an owner, a scofflaw owner who doesn't make the repairs. So there's a possibility that people could end up losing their buildings if they don't take corrective action when required. So if the report identifies non-emergency repairs that need to be made to the exterior elevated elements, those non-emergency repairs must be made within 120 days. So they don't need to be made immediately, but they must be made within 120 days. Now, it used to be the law that the person doing the inspection, if they're a licensed contractor, could not also do the repair, but that law was recently amended. So now licensed contractors bearing a B license or a C5 framing license that also have 5 years experience building multifamily structures can do both the inspection as well as the repair. So that's good to know. We're licensed contractors in the B category, and so we're entitled to do both the repair as well as the inspection. Not to mention, we're also licensed engineers, so that really helps. That not only are we looking at it as a practical sense through practical lenses of contractors, but we're also looking at the very highest level on the technical end with our engineering team. So we provide both those services, the inspection as well as the repair. So here are a couple of these next slides are a couple of examples of exterior elements. I mean, this is your most common exterior element here in the middle. It's a balcony. This balcony here is supported by joists that cantilever out from the exterior of the building. These railings and the flashing here that you can see on the edge of the balcony are particularly rife with problems, and if they're not installed correctly, could cause moisture to get into the joist areas and decay and deteriorate and cause catastrophic failure. So that's what you're going to be looking for. So this is an example of an exterior elevated element. Here's a balcony. Here's a deck. So this is a high elevation deck. You can see there are stairs going up to this deck. The deck is supported by wooden posts. There are also wooden rails, and it's a wooden structure itself. These structures that you might have in a smaller building are also subject to the state rule SB721 and must be inspected. Again, the load-bearing elements in this case here are these posts. So you can see one post here, one post there, one post there, and the beams that are holding up the posts. So those will also have to be inspected as part of the SB721 inspection package. This is an example. I've seen so many buildings like this in the West Adams area where the back of the building has stairs and landing structures that look just like this, and a lot of them are in terrible shape. So you can see here, you've got stairs, you've got landings, you've got load-bearing elements here, you've got these joists that cantilever out from the building, you've got these columns that run into the foundation, you've got these columns here, and you've also got these sort of kickers that come off of the building and support the deck up above. So all of these elements must be inspected on your 721 inspection, and you must ensure that there is no dry rot or termite damage to that would otherwise compromise the structure. So I'm sure a lot of you out there own a building with a similar structure in the back, and yeah, it could be a serious problem. Also, walkways. I've noticed a lot of buildings that we work on have these interior walkways. I did a retrofit at a big building in Westwood, and there must have been 3 stories, and probably 150. No, much more than that. 300 linear feet per stories of these walkways. So there are a lot of buildings out there with them. On the top of this walkway here, you've got a deck coating that must be inspected. You got to ensure that your railing here, where it enters into the walkway, is also waterproof, so that there's no penetration, allowing for water to get in and damage the wood structure up above. So what we do is, and I guess I'll get that a little bit later. So this is an example of a walkway. This is an example of a repair to a walkway or actually this is a landing area into 2 apartment buildings on the right-hand side. But it is a walkway, and it is an exterior elevated element as well. And what we did here is, when we removed the top portion, the decking portion of the exterior element, we realized that the sub sheathing was also shot. So we had to replace all of the sub sheathing, and that is part of the load bearing components. Well, actually, no, the sub sheathing isn't, but it needed to be replaced in order for us to apply a new deck coating above. That's a double slide. So you can see here, this is another project that we worked on, where we removed the existing decking, replaced the joists that were rotted, replaced also the floor sheeting, and then covered it with this bituthane material. And oh, you're sleeping? Well, we have a guest here today. Adam, here's my son. He decided to come to work today with me, so maybe he'll sit and hang out with me for the rest of the broadcast. Oh no, there's mom. Okay, Bubba, I'll see you later. Yes, good night. I'll see you later, dude. Bye. So on the right-hand side, you have the finished product, and on the left-hand side, you have sort of a work in progress. Here is this, we wrapped the waterproofing element all the way on the underside, and you can see we're applying the lath here. Eventually, we apply the stucco, and this is the finished product. When we talked about load-bearing elements, these are the elements that transfer load either to the building or to the ground. This particular project, we have to replace the existing wooden support column. So what we did is we installed looks like a 6-inch HSS, hollow structural section member. I can't remember if this was a 6-inch or an 8-inch. I can't really tell from these pictures. I'd have to pull up the plans. But this structural section, this hollow structural section column rather, is set in a footing on the left-hand side. You can see that here. There's a 4x4 by 18-inch footing here, and it's welded to the new steel stairwell that we installed as well. So that's a load-bearing element. You can see it during construction. This is the final product on the right-hand side here. So I think that's about it. That was a quick rundown on SB721, the requirements, and these are ways that you can contact us. You can contact us here at the office in Tarzana. Come by. We'd love to have you here. It gives me an opportunity, or an excuse rather, to get lunch. So if you want to come over, we'll order some lunch for you, for me, for the office. Everyone will love it. You can also give us a call. I'm here pretty much every day unless I'm out on a site visit. Or hanging out with a little one. So you can call me and we can talk. You can also sign up for our live weekly webinars, and we can talk in the chat. Speaking of the chat, let's pull it up. Let's see if there's anyone that has any questions that I can answer. Let's see here. Let me stop sharing my screen. There we go. Let's put the chat overlay on. Here we go. It does not show. Let's see. Hide. So it doesn't look like anyone is in the chat, and because no one's in the chat, and because it looks like I only have one viewer up there, so hi out there, whoever's watching me live, I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. Otherwise, I encourage that you reach out to us by phone or by email, and we'll talk soon. All right. So with that, I'll let you guys go, and we'll talk later. Thank you for joining in. Bye-bye.